You know, I think you sure as hell don't live off the royalties of a book like this. By a long shot.
Well, let's talk about that in just a few minutes. We'll take another little break and we'll come back then and talk about publishing. And
well, one last thing I wanted to say on that was this. I think the rewards are many of doing something like this. One of them is to be here and meet with a group like this. This is a wonderful experience for me. But I think one of the real rewards that came out of this, and you may read between the lines on this, was McEwen had never opened up to anybody before we met and talked. He never really opened up about this incident. And he was carrying, like those recruits, he was carrying this enormous burden around with him. And I think it was very cathartic for him to sit down and talk and let it out and let it go. I sent him a copy of the book, to him and his wife, and they wrote a wonderful note afterward. They said that we were terrified about what this book coming out would do, and we think Matt's been treated very fairly by it, and we just want to say thank you. That was a great reward.
That's something money can't buy.
That's right, yeah. And at the same time, I didn't want to write a paean to him as a hero, because he wasn't a hero. And he had a terrible error of judgment here. So.
And if I can say before the break, if you know, we all are faced with making decisions, and had he did what he did, and they didn't drown, and he turned his platoon around, they'd have probably been lined up to go to Ribbon Creek, the other platoons.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be part of the training. And
sure.
Yeah, been part of the exercise.
And basically, it was, up to that time, it wasn't Ribbon Creek, but they were taking them into the waters down there. So, whereas SOP.
Now they use a pool.
no, they still go out in the field.
Do they?
Oh, of course. They go out in Page Field and hang out there for 10 days or whatever. And
Like I said, Crucible. In the Crucible.
Crucible,
I used to
yeah.
go to the pool once a month and shut it down because one of the recruits shit in it.
You come up with the crazy stuff, Mo. I swear.
Very succinct.
The Marine Corps version of Caddyshack, is that what you're telling me? I think it's time for a break.
You can't make this stuff up.
And you started to touch on it, this institutional pushback from carrying the book and things of that nature. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. The book came out, the Gazette and Leatherneck did a review, and a good one, I thought, fair, from my perspective. And there were several other reviews. I contacted the PX, at that time they didn't have the bookstore, that short bookstore at Parris Island, to see if they, I think I'd been down here and they didn't carry the book, and so I contacted them about it, and there was a colonel, I don't know what his role was here, but he was the guy, the decision maker, and he said, you know, we're not too happy about that incident, so we're not interested in carrying a book about it from there. And that was that. There was no give and take about it, or effort to that he wasn't going to listen to any effort to persuade him. And about, I came back down to Beaufort for another book signing a few years later, and a gentleman named Colonel Kahn, I don't know if you know him, he was the JAG, head of JAG there, and back in sort of in around 2002 or 3. Bird colonel, very nice and well-educated man, and he said, I read your book, and he said that should be carried here, and it should be taught, that incident. And I told him the story, and he said, let me see what I can do about that. And he carried the ball, and it turned out the colonel that had nixed it originally had retired in the meantime. And after that, the PX did carry it. So it was there, and then it was over when they had the bookstore. They carried it at that time, too. The other...
The MCA bookstore.
the MCA bookstore, yeah. The other experience that I had was at the DI school. And I have been in touch with them over the years to see if they would, to try to speak there. And I did, one major who ran the DI school reluctantly allowed that. And I was put on the agenda for 7 o'clock one evening. These poor guys, you know, just hanging in. And the last two majors, I have met in person, and they both, you know, glad-handed. Oh, wonderful! Yes, we were very interested in that story, and that we do build that into the curriculum, and I'll give you a call. Never, no call ever came, and I followed up, and oh, yeah, I got a new class coming in. Well, we'll give you a buzz. So they don't have any interest in it there, and that's the one place I would think they would be the most interested, you know. So there is another book called The U.S. Marine Corps in Crisis that came out back in the 80s by a former Marine named Keith Fleming that does talk about Ribbon Creek, but it's a very different perspective. It's the institutional reaction, and, you know, the strategy in Washington and that sort of stuff. Not too much about, nothing about the court-martial, and very little about the incident itself. And that's the book they use in the DI school for some reason, which it seems to me to be not apropos to what they're trying to teach these guys and women.
Now, you wrote this as a thesis, and so what was the evolution for publication?
Well, I initially thought of it as for a thesis, but then that went out the window, so I just wrote it on my own. The publication process, you know, there's a big a Bible, I can't even think of the name of it now. I bought it in Barnes.
Writer's Market. Yep.
Okay, well that wasn't the name of mine, but there are several of them. You know what they are. That give you the names of all the agents and you know, all the publishing houses and everything. They sell them in the bookstores. A very useful tool. And so I went through that, and there are probably, I don't know, 200 literary agents, houses or agents, and I picked out 20, give or take, that appeared to, agents that appeared to be interested in this kind of stuff. And you send them a letter with a stamped return envelope. That's a requirement. And some of them want a few pages from your manuscript, and others just a letter of inquiry, and tell them a bit about it. And out of the 20, I got probably 12 responded.
That's very good.
9 said not interested. And 3 said different things. One of them said, it's not my thing, but I think you will get it published. Mm-hmm. And I can't take it. I can't take it at this time. There was some ray of hope there, but nothing resulted. And I happen to know of, and had met in the past, a fellow named Andre Debus.